Okay, folks, ever get into one of those debates?
Yeah.
You know, the kind that get really heated,
Ooh, yeah.
where you're just absolutely positive?
Yeah.
You're right, I'm talking like politics or the streaming service, what have you.
Oh, yeah, I know those.
Well, today we're going to dive into one of those, but with like way higher stakes. Think the future of a whole religion.
Now that's a debate.
Exactly. It's the story of early Christianity
Mhm.
and how one man's change of heart, well, it basically changed everything.
And it all boils down to this question, did the first Christians have to follow all those old Jewish customs?
Right, because you got to remember, back then, Christianity was basically like a part of Judaism.
Ah, it was.
And lots of folks thought to really follow Jesus, you had to follow all those traditional laws and rituals.
Like you're listening to this and Gentile's just a word, right?
It was a history term.
But back then it was a huge deal, a dividing line. If you were a Gentile, meaning not born Jewish, well, a lot of people believed you had to jump through all these hoops before you could even become Christian.
And guess who was leading the charge for keeping things traditional?
Let me guess.
None other than Peter, one of Jesus's closest disciples.
Oh, wow. So the OG crew.
Yeah, the OG. But then things got interesting. A new branch of the church popped up in Antioch, and they were all about being inclusive.
Ah, Antioch. Now, that was a fascinating place, kind of like the New York City of the ancient world, this bustling, diverse city.
So like a cultural melting pot.
Exactly. And the church there was attracting tons of Gentile converts. They were like, hey, everyone's welcome. Come on in. No need to adopt all the Jewish customs.
So you've got these two branches of the early church, kind of like different political parties today, but with, eternal implications.
Oh, absolutely. And you can just imagine the conversations, the disagreements. It all came to a head at this big meeting called the Council of Jerusalem.
Okay, so picture this Peter, this staunch traditionalist in this high-stakes council meeting, and he starts talking about his time in Antioch.
Yeah, what was going on in his head? What made him change his mind?
Well, Peter was a man of deep faith, and in Antioch he was seeing something incredible. Gentiles embracing Christianity, experiencing what he believed were signs from God.
Signs from God. Now, what would that have looked like back then?
Yeah, were people like suddenly speaking in tongues or parting the sea?
Probably not so dramatic, but think about it, seeing the power of faith transform lives, maybe acts of charity or this diverse, vibrant community flourishing, something that made Peter question everything.
Wow, so he's seeing all this and realizing maybe he's had it wrong all along. That's got to be humbling.
Absolutely, but he didn't just abandon scripture. He went deeper. He started to see certain passages in a whole new light.
Like what kind of passages?
Well, there's one in the book of Acts where God tells Peter, do not call anything impure that God has made clean. Peter realized this could apply to Gentiles too, welcoming them without all the Jewish laws.
So he's using scripture to support a more inclusive approach. That's pretty clever.
Yeah, and it worked. Peter's testimony combined with his, celebrity apostle status had a huge impact on the council.
So what happened?
They decided to go with a more inclusive approach. Gentile converts didn't have to follow all the Jewish customs to be considered true Christians.
Wow, so this ancient council meeting, it had a ripple effect that's still felt today.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. It's about challenging our own convictions, being open to new evidence and experiences, even when it's hard.
Yeah, like those times when we come across information that challenges our political views or even something like our taste in music.
Exactly. Do we cling to what's familiar or do we have the courage to be open to something new?
Right. In Peter's story, it reminds us to approach life and our beliefs with a bit more humility and a lot more open-mindedness.
And don't forget the power of lived experience. Peter didn't just read about these Gentiles in Antioch. He saw their faith firsthand. That's what truly moved him.
Sometimes we got to step outside our comfort zones to really learn and grow.
Imagine the impact if we all did that. Peter's willingness to change his mind. It literally changed history, shaped Christianity into the diverse global religion it is today.
So we've gone from the early church, with its clash between tradition and change, to this pivotal Council of Jerusalem. We've talked about the tension between the Jerusalem church holding on to Jewish law and the Antioch church welcoming everyone. And we've seen how one person's courage to change their mind can create a more inclusive world.
It's a powerful story about embracing different perspectives and having the humility to change our minds.
It makes you think, what could we achieve if we were all a little more like Peter? That's something worth thinking about. Until next time, keep diving deep. And remember, even apostles can change their minds.
They can.